Welcome to the Boss It Weekly podcast, a no-nonsense, no-hype, frank and close-up analysis of what is currently working and what is not in the world of software. The Boss It podcast is packed with major takeaways for software business owners and managers. So, let's begin.
Welcome to Boss It Podcast. I hope that you've been enjoying the recent podcasts as we're about to enter season 3. We have done a few recordings that are already in the can, but we're very much focusing now, looking at talking to CEOs within the software sector, founders, shareholders, and sharing some of the experiences that they've had in this very fast-moving industry. So in a nutshell, that's what Boss It's all about. It's hopefully bringing to you interesting conversations. We always have sort of positioned it as an over-the-shoulder listen to a conversation between two executives within the software sector, but nothing too formal, fairly relaxed, and answering some of the questions that you may have encountered. And if you do have any particular topics that you would like me to cover, whether that's in the area around technology, the market, mergers and acquisitions, marketing, you name it, I can find an expert in that area. And people also with varying opinions on different subjects, which I think is also useful so that you can hear both sides and you can come and make your own mind up. So today I have with me somebody from Imagine Growth, Alexander Gesell, which I understand, is that the correct pronunciation, Alex? Gesell?
Gesell.
Gesell. There we go. That's a great start. I've got his name wrong already. Gesell. So Alex, I've known for some time. I've worked with him and with a number of my clients, and I've had very positive feedback. It's actually in an area where I have put in quite a lot of time and effort to try and find the right people to partner with me. And I'll get him to explain what he does in a minute. And it's been very frustrating. It literally has taken me years. And I've tried to work with a number of people and it's not always worked. But I understand that your name actually means bachelor and you got married about 3 weeks ago. Does that mean you need to change your name?
Probably. But like being this young heart while growing old is probably a good idea.
Exactly. And also the other interesting thing is that you have a business, you've now married, you're now going to have a family, but you travel the world. So you are a true digital nomad.
Yeah, that's true. Like about 2 years ago, I was always craving it, but I finally made the move. So I founded my company and I built it from the start with the idea of having a truly global company. So I live truly between Europe, Latin America, US, Asia, Africa, everywhere, usually 3 to 6 months in the most beautiful places. And I even built my entire company around this remote concept. So I have employees on all 5 continents and my client bases are mainly in Europe and US and everything is fully virtual. So it's really this next level of, okay, let's work globally together. There is no borders, no distance is too much.
I think that it's something that's been possible for many years. Well, in fact, my business, Boss Equity, from the very start, we were working across the world and we weren't able to come together because getting that expertise in one region and bringing together people in an office, it just wasn't feasible. And we were working in different time zones in those days as well. And that was a bit of an issue, less so now. But I think that COVID seems to have changed the mindset of a number of people about having people working from home, working in different parts of the world and connecting via, things like Zoom, which we're using today. But you actually started out with that aim.
I started out before COVID hit and I kind of lived my entire career like that. So I started off at Microsoft working 2 days a week remote and like gradually with my jobs and raising responsibility. So you take over a country, you take over rest of the world, you take over VP of Europe. And then anyway, your team is scattered across the world. You have some part of your team in Europe, you have some part of your team in Africa, and you always report to corporate, which is in US usually. So it became step by step more natural. But what I didn't do in the past is living consciously about it. So sometimes it even stressed me, oh, I need to fly for 3 days to New York. Nowadays, I just say, okay, the next 3 months, I want to live in Colombia. The next 3 months, I want to live in Silicon Valley. The next 3 months, I want to live in London. And then I schedule my business around it. Okay, who do I know in London? Which kind of strategic meetings could I do? And at the same time, 100% of my customer conversations are online. So there is zero need in the way we do business for in person, but whenever I can do it, I love to do it, of course.
Excellent. I think it's great to be able to do that. And I'm seeing, getting the feedback, talking to a number of software companies, which you think would be more inclined to be able to work in that way. I was quite surprised how many had reservations, wondering about, will we be productive as a company working in that way? But I think that what's been forced upon them has sort of overcome a lot of those concerns. Not totally, and I don't think people want to be working remotely all of the time. I think we're very social beings, and you do need to come together occasionally and meet face to face. But I think over the last 2 years with COVID, it has changed the mindset of a lot of people.
Mhm.
So that's good. Imagine Growth. That's the name of your company. What was the thinking behind that?
We're an institute, so the full name is the Imagine Growth Institute, and we're a training institute with a dedication to a very certain target group, the people that we talk here. We're focused on the tech industry, so both software and consulting founders and their teams. Our vision is really help the people change the way they do business across areas, both end-to-end business from strategic positioning to scaling up their business 2 to 10x. And at the same time, working on their personal growth. So top leader personal growth on all levels, body, mind, soul reprogramming, as what I love to call it. But like, really, how do you live an empowered life as a leader and don't work 100 hours just stressing out for the next quarterly goal? And at the same time, how do you transform your operations to the future, or to what is demanded right here, right now, instead of doing business since the last 20 years, which is progressively not working?
It's interesting because one of the things that I do when I've got my mergers and acquisitions hat on and I'm looking at a potential client or I'm working with a client is looking, where do they have value within their organization? Where is their IP? And I think in this area, or one of the areas that we're going to cover about generating lead, about creating a lead generation team, this is one of the areas of expertise, is what I like about what you do is that a lot of the companies are wanting to come in and take that process from the organization and run that for them, which means that their lead generation team actually sits outside the organization. And I think that that can work. And I think that that's important, especially when the company's starving or the sales force is starving and they are not getting enough leads. And volume of leads is something that I want to talk about with you today, is really important because you've got sales teams and processes that you need to test and you need to learn. And without volume, it's very difficult to do that because you're talking sort of hypothetical terms. But with genuine leads and stats that you can use, you can see as your success improves. But more long term, I think that you want to be able to, and it depends on your stage of growth, to be able to bring that expertise in-house and have those people as employees within your organization. And I think what you've put together, I think really works. And that was very much sort of aligned with my thinking. You'll help them establish, you'll maybe help them get those processes going, but your real aim is to bring that knowledge and get the teams working within the organization rather than have it as an outsourced service.
The number one mistake I saw in my career. So by the way, guys, I worked 10 years in the tech industry across all hierarchy levels, from being the sales guy, the strategic sales guy, to being a country lead, to being a VP of Europe. And I worked like in the most innovative spaces. So mainly in robotic process automation and AI for over 10 years. In every single organization I ever worked, I realized that two topics never worked. One topic was branding and content marketing. So really creating the content and the community with the customers to educate them in the way they need it. about the innovative industry topic that your software business is targeting for. And the second piece was lead generation. And I had every setup. I had in-house setups, outsourced setups. I had one-person shops. I had agencies. It never worked really good. And I think the biggest mistake that all of those companies did, they were always trying to fix it for this quarter. They were always trying to, oh shit, we don't have enough revenue. Go ahead. Let's just throw money on it and believe we can fix it. But none of those companies were really understanding how it works and we're taking it strategically. So if you want to grow your business 2 to 10x, and we're in the software industry, everybody wants to grow their business 10x, you know? So if you really want to grow, this is a strategic asset. This is your core capability. Producing software is one, doing sales is the other side. The bridge between those is communicating what you do to your market. So this is thought leadership and content marketing, and then leveraging this to generate leads. And if you outsource this, or if you take that sideways, if you just focus on sales, but don't take this strategic, you're not going to grow that way. And you're going to have the biggest pain in having a predictable outcome for your company. And I saw that in every size of company. I saw that in Microsoft size. I saw that in 1,000 people, mid-sized companies. And I saw that in 200 people startup companies, and 50 people and 3 people companies. In every size of company I ever saw that, this was not done properly.
One of the first things that I do when I look at a company, whether I'm sort of assessing whether it's a good fit to take that company on, is to look at their level of growth, but actually to try and understand where that growth's come from. And I think for companies, the smaller companies or companies at an early stage, I've seen a lot of them that have created good growth, but they've done it in a non-scalable way. And what I mean by that, and it could be a variety of reasons. It could be the fact that they're leveraging a really good network, so that they've already got this network, they've gone out to that network and they've won sales, especially over the first year, 18 months. The problem is that network is of a certain size. And once you've done that, to continue that level of growth is very difficult. What you're about is being able to set up a process that is scalable and controllable to be able to feed sales in the right way. You don't want the sales to be overrun. You don't want to be missing opportunities, but you need to have that consistent flow of business coming through. I mean, at the end of the day, you start a business, it's all about sales. But how do you get the sales? Then you have to be generating new opportunities. And what you're about is like creating a process with a tap, and you can turn it up and you can turn it down and control it to feed sales. Because one of the other mistakes I see is paying money for top salespeople, bringing them into an organization, and you're going to have to be an induction period, but then not being able to feed them. I always say, get the lead generation in place first, then bring in your salespeople.
So
when you've got too many leads for your existing sales process.
I can 100% confirm that. So I even saw one of the companies I worked, they did 100 million in just 7 personal relationships. It was a consulting company. And then those relationships broke away. And then suddenly they had a gap of 40 million and they didn't know what to do because they never did outreach, any kind of new customer acquisition before. And I see that as a major issue. And don't get me wrong, it's not bad to leverage personal relationships.
No.
Deals. You should always do that. And it should always be like 10, 20, 30% of what you do. And even if you hire top salespeople, they bring a network and you can leverage that part. But this will never be enough to really hit your growth goals and scale up your organization from probably the first million to making the next 5, then, and ultimately, who doesn't want to become a unicorn? So no company can become a unicorn with just personal relationship. No. So that's the challenge piece. The solution piece, what I really say, you build up this network in the past, you met those. There is a beauty about having a network, but having a network doesn't necessarily mean that the people in your network are in the right stage in their customer journey. So there's literally 2 pieces to it. The one hand side, you want to grow that strategic network from what you have personally to build a systematic network of 10, 20, 30,000 people that are just your ideal target group. for your business purpose at the moment. It doesn't have to be just customer. It can also be analysts, partners of strategic consulting companies that you work with, certain like influencing factors, but it is really build your network strategically and on scale, and just with the ideal personas that you need to do your business. That's like the first part. And just imagine, instead of having your, let's say, 200 robust relationships, you have 30,000 within a year. Then the second layer is find a way to interact with the 30,000 people, to educate them about your business. And we talk about all levels: top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. So really, why, how, what is bringing the benefit on a consistent level. That's why thought leadership and content marketing is so important, because then you educate, you even can influence a market the way they think. But the issue is just 3% of all the customers need your product right here, right now, and are ready to understand it. So if you, let's say you have your 200 people in your network, you call all 200, probably 6 of them are ready. If you have 30,000, this is another numbers game, and you waste a lot of time in reaching out to all those people and then working with the wrong customers because they are not ready yet. So this is the biggest gap that you need to bridge. Get this network and then educate them all on the right level. So you level up the entire customer base you have globally in the world, instead of shooting with a shotgun in the dark and hoping there is a ball hitting. And this is the very important piece. And if you then combine that with smart outreach, so we are really talking about a scalable outreach system that can be both automated, semi-automated, or manual, and you reach the people in the right channel and check in with them with valuable things. So not, do you want to buy my product? But by the way, we just solved this key issue in this industry with customer X that is very similar to you. Is it a challenge that you also face? If yes, here's a webinar to inform yourself, something like that, things like, every one of us, we hate to be outreached in a cheap way, but if someone is actually providing us value, then we do it.
Well, one of the questions that I've had thrown at me when I'm talking about this lead generation and the importance of it, and I want to talk a bit more about that, is, and it makes me smile in some respects, because they're talking about, well, we don't want to be overrun with too many leads. They're sitting there with hardly any leads. And then we start to describe this process, and then they say, yeah, but we don't want to be swamped with too many leads. How would you answer that? What would you say to that?
First of all, I would have a deep smile first.
Yes.
Let's first get to that situation.
Yeah.
And like, the cool thing is, if you do build out a systematic approach, within 3 months, you can come to that place. Yeah. So it's not like a 5 years investment. Within 3 months, you can get to a place of too many leads. It is the best situation to be in. So yeah. Look at your company KPIs, especially as the sales and marketing ones. The most important one is, how is the funnel? And then what is the sales cycle? What are the closing rates? And ultimately, what is the cost of sales? And the problem is, the most of the companies on all sizes, again, even the ones who have huge marketing engines, because they don't do it the right way, they always face the problem of too little leads. And then they just work with the customers that are showing up. So, yes. Customer coming in, you think, wow. And instead of really being that critical, we all learn to qualify, but we don't do it because we are afraid and we don't have any clients.
That's one of the key problems I see, is when you step back, and it's easy. I must admit, it is easier for me coming in from the outside. When I talk to my clients about what is the ideal prospect, the first thing that I notice is it's not necessarily something that they've really thought deeply enough. And when you look at their customers and you start to talk to them about that process that they've gone through, is because of this lack of leads, any opportunity that walks through the door, they grab onto it and they hang on to it. The sales hang on to it all the way through. There's this desperation because, there's not many other leads around, and I've got to hit my target, and we want to hit the company targets. And then that has a knock-on effect, because even if you do sell to them, where there's not a good match, you're going to find that very difficult to close. And it could be that it's not a good match, and most likely it's for both sides. You should be qualifying that out. But where you take these prospects through that are not a good match for you, you've then got the issue with the implementation and the customer service that comes afterwards, where it's going to be a painful process and it's going to take up more time. You're not going to have as happy a client. Whereas if you've got more prospects coming in and you are genuinely going back and saying, at this time, I don't think we're a good fit for you. You spend your time with those that are a better fit for you of your ideal prospects.
Yeah.
The knock-on effect when you start to work that through, and I've done that, is to show to a client the impact of too few prospects. And actually the worst thing is selling to those wrong people, and the impact within your company, it's enormous.
So talking outside of my now being in my own company, like being that sales guy, and I used to be really like this gifted 1% sales guy that usually really overperformed by multiples. But I was often in situation when I started with a company and there were no leads at all. And then I had that challenge that was just taking all over. And, you know, like we all know how to qualify, but then we justify in front of ourselves and in front of our boss, but don't you see the opportunity? And then we work a year on them and they're still not ready, or even worse, after 6 to 9 months, we close them, but we adapted our pricing model. We make a 500K deal and then we make a 200K consulting deal, or a 600K consulting deal, even worse, with it to kind of adapt it. And instead of scaling our business, we slow down our business. And I saw that across the board on all hierarchy levels because of that situation. So empowering yourself in a situation where you probably reject 20% of the customers, if not 50, and really say, we just work with clients that we know we can exponentially scale, and really have this very valuable review conversation. Be directional, you know, like what are really your challenges? What can we really solve? And let's really look each other in the eyes and decide if this is a go forward. When you do that, by the way, you create the most trustful clients, the ones that you really take on. They will appreciate that process so much. I had that several times in my career where I really went through this process with clients, and we were really looking us honest in the eyes and did that. And they became the biggest, most loyal clients. And they even moved with me as a salesperson to all the other clients I ever went to. And that was like, that showed me, okay, they valued what I did and the honesty that I did with them so much. And I even had that sometimes when I rejected people, when I like honestly said, you know, the challenge that you face, you can do it with our product, but let's be honest, if you do this, it's probably more successful. And 2 years down the road, when you have the majority, when you have really the right growth in your company, then let's check in, and then we can really 10x. And they came back to me 2 years later, either in the same or in the next company I worked with. And then I closed with them the big deals, because what happens a lot is then we push through those clients and they are not have the internal structures yet. And then our project fails. You probably do the 20K deal, but you don't do the 2 million deal with them, because they don't have the structures yet. And instead of first enabling them together, we just want to sell software because this quarter we got to sell. And then these two realities collide. So going back, enabling you to have 5-10x too many leads and just take on, let's say, 20 to 50% of every lead that's coming in will empower you that you can select the ones that you can make the biggest impact, that have the right budget, where you know the sales cycle will be the lowest, and you can really take what you have instead of creating something new. And by that, bring up all the sales and marketing KPIs that will really then enable you to grow 2 to 10x in the next year. So this is massive. And that's why I say this topic is so strategic. And it is never taking strategic. Hiring the sales and doing the sales is strategic. Developing a product is, but marketing and lead gen is like, I don't really know where it comes from, but it seems to be the least strategic topic in the software and tech industry. And I never really understood it. And that's why I made it my first program in my training institute, because working 10 years in that industry, I saw this is the biggest issue. If I can help someone solve this, this is the number one button I can click that will level them up. Everything else will not have that impact as this.
No, I agree. And I think one of the consequences of not having that flow of leads of an adequate level, because you've got to understand that there's always going to be qualification there, or there should be qualification. If you're not turning down prospects, then you're probably not doing your job. And what it enables you to do, if you've got sufficient leads coming through and you are genuinely, authentically working as a consultative salesperson, which is understanding that business, understanding what you do, and giving an honest feedback as to whether you can solve their problem. Sometimes, as we know, it means that you have to uncover the latent problems. Sometimes the problem they come to you with is not the real problem they've got within the organization. And that's an opportunity for a salesman to establish trust and to be seen as a valuable asset. If you're not able to genuinely qualify a prospect out, and you're desperate to take every lead through to sale, then that will come across, and the prospect will pick that up very early, and you're not able to do what your job is all about, which is to do that consultative sale, to be authentic, to be truthful, because you're exactly right what you said. Do it that way, and sometimes it may be saying you need to go to another company, even to another competitor. But if you do it with honesty, there can be that they're not the right customer for you today, but in the future they'll come back because you will have established trust. And that's really important. Authentic and trust.
And absolutely. So like the thing is, if you take out this piece, this middle piece, so both lead generation and thought leadership in between the bridge of your product and your sales, you're losing the most important part of your learning curve. So, and if you outsource it as well, the problem is you generate so much data in this process. So understanding who your clients really are, or not just someone sits down in the beginning of the quarter and makes an Excel list with 5 filters, really understanding who are your ideal clients, then understand how to find them, understand which signals should they give you to reach out to them, then how to qualify them in the right situation, and how to direct them throughout that process to do the sales, the first sales, and then the upscale, really understanding that, and then building a scalable system to communicate thought leadership to those people and to generate leads with them. Having this bridge gap, it will give you so much end-to-end data about your business for continuous improvement of everything, of your product, of your sales, of your lead gen, of your marketing, of your service, everything you do. That losing this piece, and let's face it, 80 to 95% of every consulting and software company out there loses this piece. This is just seriously hurting your business, and it is not generating like this key advantage that you can have over your competition. If you crack this can, even if you have a worse product and a worse service and you're not as competitive, if you work on your strategic positioning, on your thought leadership, and on your lead gen, this can be the biggest competitive advantage in winning a market compared to everything else.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
One of the platforms that I know that you're able to use, and is very powerful because so many of the people that you're wanting to reach, and sort of 98% of them are going to be on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a platform that's been around for some time. But I know, and in my own experience in speaking to people in the software industry, what do you say to somebody who says to you, oh, I get so much spam on LinkedIn, I don't think it's effective, we've tried it in the past, it was a waste of time, we didn't generate any decent leads? What do you say to them?
First of all, a really good question, because I hear that quite often.
Yeah, so do I.
I hear like the frustration on the one side, but then but I've heard it works so good for some other people. Like usually that comes, and that's why they talk to us.
Okay.
And just to set the context. So in our 7-figure business development program, we focus 80% on LinkedIn and 20% on making the entire channel setup happen. So email outreach, probably see if there's other channels like Twitter, creating a podcast, whatever makes sense. But it's a LinkedIn first strategy. And we really made sure we have the best knowledge in the world available for that. But coming from there, there is a really clear answer. It's because people that reach out to you and you're yourself were doing it wrong. You never, ever understood it the right way.
Yes.
And you didn't get the training and the enablement and the structures to make it the right way. It's a very easy answer. And like 5 years ago, when I started my own thought leader journey, I had a social selling training that was not bad, but it was also not good. But it inspired me back then to start the journey. And I started building up my thought leader brand for being a leading expert in the robotic process automation and AI industry. And within 3 months, I had everyone in the industry. I had 10,000 perfect personas. I just posted every day, like a newsletter or something. I didn't really know back then how it really works good. And I started genuine conversation with all the leaders in the industry. And within 3 months, everybody knew me. I got my dream job that 3x my salary. And when I started, the day I started, I made a post. I get 100,000 views and 1,000 comments, and 9 CIOs reached out to me and scheduled for the week after, the first day starting, the week after, to make a meeting with them to introduce my new product. And 3 of them went a deal. So this was like my starting point when I realized, oh, this really works. And I didn't know back then what I know now. But so this is just like, it really, really works. But it doesn't work if you do an average training that superficially explains you the functionality and then tell your people, do a little bit targeting and send a little bit outreach message. This does not work. You need to understand the psychology of social selling. You need to understand how to run campaigns on scale, how to target the right people, and how to integrate it in a scalable content thought leader module, in a scalable outreach module, and align that 100% to your company targets and like way you do business. If you don't do it that way, you just camouflage things.
Yeah, it's another marketing channel that can work, but it's the way that you do it. I think that a lot of people have bad experiences, and this was one of the areas where I've really struggled to find a partner to work with my clients in the area of doing this outreach and generating leads, particularly with LinkedIn. Quite often they're using techniques that worked 3 years ago. They had success then and they haven't changed. And I know LinkedIn's changed in the last 18 months. It's changed in the last year. And
in the last 2 months significantly.
Yeah, it's continually. And keeping up to date is really important. If you're using techniques from a few years ago, it won't work. It doesn't mean that you can't use LinkedIn. You just got to know how. It's not what you do, it's the way that you do it. There's a song there, I think.
No, absolutely. And one thing I would correct you. You should not do it another marketing channel. It should be your primary marketing channel. And everything that you do should be focused on there and aligned to it. So, and I explain you why. Because it went the #1 business channel.
Yes. No, I agree. I see that.
Media. It is the best place to find your clients. So, first of all, regardless if you use it for outreach or what you do, there is no better place to create a perfect list of target that is laser targeted. And we are talking about right persona, right time, topic to talk about. This
Just think of it first of all as a database. So I remember years ago, and you still see them occasionally, there are companies out there that are wanting to sell you names and email addresses. Why do that? There's LinkedIn, and the people keep them up to date yourself. I don't want to think about how much money I've spent because I've got quite an extensive database in the software industry. And I had to employ people full-time just working on this to keep this up to date. And we were doing it when we discovered that the person had moved on or something had changed. Just think, with LinkedIn, it's all available to you and they keep it up to date. What's not to like about that?
Absolutely. So it's the most up to date and the biggest and most filterable database, especially with the Pro Tools like Sales Navigator. You can go to any granularity. Which technology is someone using? Which hierarchy level is them? How much employees do they have in a specific department? How much revenue does it do? Like everything you need to know to understand, is this a client with every quantitative criteria? And even you can even add the right time criteria with some smart tricks. So like for example, like just giving you like a little like real life thing. If someone is joining a LinkedIn event, that's a webinar of your competition, or of an industry event of, for example, let's say Gartner, about your topic, you know they are at the moment interested in it. If you take the people that are in those events and retarget them for add the filters, which is your personas, and then retarget them, you know the right people, the right time, and you have a topic to talk about. You saw they joined this conference. This is something, just imagine, it's so much more powerful than going to a conference, running like this pointless kind of like shooting in the dark campaigns. And all this is available with like some, like, you know, like within some minutes being set up, and you get
it's a sales trigger, isn't it? Because you can identify who potentially could be of interest in your product or your service, but then there's an aspect of timing, and that could mean any time over the next 5 years. How do you know? You know, are you going to contact them every single week, or contact them when you can be triggered by an event that indicates that they're interested? That seems like the smart way to go.
Yeah, and you know, I always heard that in every single of my job, they what's the name again? There is this kind of trigger event. There is a software industry sales term that I don't remember, and everything that this is where you need to focus at. Like every one of my bosses and everyone was always like focusing on that, but nobody really knew how to look for that. If you have nowadays LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you can even filter on news events, and there's probably a news announcement that is, hey, we are just hiring another 500 people. We just need to get rid in our digital 225 strategy of 10,000 people. We're a big bank and we want to automate. Like, if you read that, okay, you know this is the right time. And you can automate that you get notifications on it, and it even shows you they just reduced in growth or of people or of sales or the rise. So you have all those indicators that give you this action points to talk about.
And obviously you can also set up in your own posts those triggers by making posts that create a series of calls to action, which means if you've got somebody that's wanting to download that particular white papers, I think, has been overdone to a certain extent, and there's been a lot of poor white papers, but there are other things that can be done that shows an interest. And when you've got a suspect at that stage that is willing to spend a little bit of time to give you some information to attend a webinar, that's a trigger in itself. And again, you've got access, you've got the ability to target and access those people on LinkedIn. What do you see as being the main mistakes that people make in the area of lead generation? What is something that you see time and time again particularly in the software sector, that is just being repeated?
I see a mistake that every single organization that I start working with does. Nobody has a thought through end-to-end process for lead generation and for creating thought leadership and authority in their industry. It's all quarter by quarter, idea by idea, and there is not this like really scalable thought through system. And that's what you need to build. So this is exactly what we teach customers when we work with them. Because this is the number one thing where they fail. You know, you can work with people on a lot of things, but understanding, okay, what are you doing at the moment? What works, what doesn't? And then how do you scale that up in the most possible way? Most companies don't even have a proper SOP, standard operating procedure, for their outreach and for their thought leadership. That what the most of them do, they probably have a sales script or they have an outreach script. There is not a process around it. So like, and the last thing I see that companies learn from what they do. So what you need to do is you need to design a system, ideally something that is proof tested and that works. So if you go to a training company, whoever is it, getting a system that is proof tested in your specific industry, setting up a system for outreach, and setting a system for thought leadership and content marketing end to end. Which people are involved, which steps are involved, which tools do we need, and how do we run this on scale, regardless how much stress in the operation there is? How do we align this to our short, mid, and long-term plan? And how do we build it in a way that if a new person starts, they can just jump on it, and we can scale it from one lead gen person to 10 to 20. We can scale it from one sales guy to 10 to 20. And we can scale it from generating 10 leads a week to 20 to 100 to 1,000, whatever makes sense. And having this designed, documented, and then having a KPI system, a real-time KPI system with business analytics end-to-end in place that gives you the entire data, and then continuously, not like roughly, oh, we didn't do sales, now we need to change everything, but continuously A/B test and evaluate whatever you do on all levels, and see basically on a weekly basis, okay, this campaign, it didn't really work, but this one did. Let's do more of that one. And also then talk with your clients that you acquired and understand in the process that you did with them, why did they buy? What triggered them? And all gather this information and consistently improve what you do. And those three things, having this scaled system for outreach and for thought leadership, and then creating this learning points, this is making the difference. And this is, by the way, coming back to the original question. I tried LinkedIn and it didn't work. This is exactly why it doesn't work, because they had no clue. They just did something. Probably even a coach were telling them something and they were just trying to do it for a moment, but they didn't create a strategic initiative and they didn't create data and learning points to move from A to B. And this is really making the difference. Yeah,
that's a really important point, and I've seen that create problems a number of times, is not knowing and then bringing in the wrong advice and taking that advice. That's painful. I've had that, and I've seen that a number of times with clients that I've engaged with, and that can be really painful. So you're trusting a source, somebody that is supposed to know what they're doing, and unfortunately, and they're probably very well intentioned, they're out of date, or sometimes they've never successfully done it. They've just been in that area a number of times, struggled through it. Because I've seen organizations, and this came apart this came about through studying the most successful software companies, is you can be successful in your marketing with poor processes if you throw enough money at it. And with the investments that we've seen in the software tech, throw enough money at it and it will work to a degree. But that's not what it's about. It's about efficient processes that are consistent and scalable. And I think the important thing about Imagine Growth Institute is that you've got the ability to work and establish those processes and steps, but transfer the knowledge, which is really important to educate those people within the company. That's what I really like, is the ability to go in, to analyze, understand what they need, set up those processes and transfer the knowledge. You're not looking to take it over and have control of that process.
Yeah. So how do you find the right company that you want to work with? Completely independent, that we're a good training institute. The most important thing is, do they have the right knowledge and the right perspective and insight in your business? So if a company is not focused on an industry, I see it over and over again. And every training provider that doesn't have an industry focus say, yeah, this is universal knowledge. You can transfer it from here to there. And it is never true. Someone who does not understand how the software industry and the consulting industry work, they will fail with whatever they teach. That's the number one thing. So if they don't have a background and understand it, don't work with them. That's like the number one thing. The number two thing is, have a look if it's a one-person shop, or probably can even be 10, 20 people, but the knowledge is created out of like this one feather. This is something where I would be very careful, because we are talking about multidimensional problems and solving them then with a one-dimensional opinion. That was when I realized, when I founded my company. I first thought, oh, do I found it myself with just one co-founder? And then we went into a 3 months of market research phase, and we realized there is not a single provider out there who actually brought together different perspectives. Everyone has a single knowledge. And then we looked each other in the eyes and said, we cannot build this company ourselves. We understood it. And then we went on LinkedIn, we used LinkedIn, and we scouted the best experts in the world. And we understood that the different knowledge are in different domains. So first of all, I knew I understand the tech industry. So that was covered. I knew I understand how sales works. And I knew quite a bit about LinkedIn, but I was not the absolute top expert back then. So I got the leading agencies in the world how to run LinkedIn lead gen, and the leading agencies in the world how to run LinkedIn content marketing and thought leadership. We found them, we got them on board. And then we got the experts in company branding, positioning, and personal branding, because it's always personal aligned with company. We got those experts. Then we got the outreach experts. And then we got the content marketing experts. And there the journey was still not ended, because just having the experts without the implementation in the tools is not working. So we then did with all these experts in the pool, did like researches, what are really the best tools? And then we actually reached out to those tool providers and made them part of the journey, and got their CEOs and best experts part of that journey, and say, how do we make that end-to-end happen? And that's still not part of the journey, because you can have the world's best knowledge, but you cannot transfer it to the people. So what we then did, we actually offered 3 founders of mid-sized tech companies to get the unique chance of their lifetime. They would get all the love in the world, and they would still pay us, because we wanted to test that they are our real persona. We charged them like full blown, but they would get more love than ever, and then create a training program based on their abilities levels, their challenges. And this really paid off. And we do all those levels continuously, looking for new experts, the right tools, and always calibrating the learning curve, because just having the knowledge doesn't mean that you can apply it. Just because I'm the world best agency doesn't mean you can apply the things, and really calibrating that. This is where it is. So when you evaluate your training providers, these are the things that you need to look for. Do they have the right perspective? Do they have the right industry knowledge? And are they really empowering me? Or do they just give me some high-level knowledge? And then 99% of the work gets lost because I cannot implement it. That was my frustration. By the way, this is why I founded the training company. I was very gifted. I was always in the elite talent programs of my companies that I work with. And I got probably more than €500,000 in training investment. And I got the best trainings out there, the best social selling, LinkedIn, personality, leadership, all of it. And it was always like that. I went to a 1 to 5 days workshop, was great leaders, great people. I came back. It was not industry specific most of the time. And there was no integration plan. And then probably I took over 5% of the knowledge to integrate it somehow in my life. And once I did 5 times the same training or like similar training in a space, then I probably got to 30%. And I sit down when I wanted to found a company and said, why is it like that? This is so frustrating. How can we waste 80% of the knowledge in the integration? So that's what we try to do different. With us, it's all about the implementation and integration. It's not about transferring your knowledge. It's about making you implement it and then continuously improving and being there for you. So you do this. And this is, I think, the biggest difference of training providers and coaches running out there. This is what they need to empower you.
And I know that you've also mentioned about quick wins. So just to give people listening to this a bit of insight, I could hear when I first made contact with you that you had a lot of knowledge in this area, and I said, you know, I'll be happy to recommend you to my clients when I see the success. So I put my son on your course, and one of the things that I think you'd said to him was about getting quick wins. And immediately he was applying the things that he was learning, and he's now at a state where he's actually so busy he can't do work for me. So in a way, I've lost. He says, Dad, I'm too busy. So I'm going to have to go and grab some of his time, but it works. But you've also done the same with my clients. So that for me is the real proof here. I know that we've only managed to sort of really touch this subject, but hopefully we've been able to convey enough information to get people thinking. So if somebody wants to reach out to you and they've got a problem in this area of lead generation, I know that you'll be happy to speak to them. How are they going to reach you? What's the best way to get hold of you?
Yeah, so shortly, I just elaborate very shortly on quick wins because it's very important. And
okay, yes, talk about the quick wins.
I think quick wins is so important. And
Yeah.
it's not just important though you get quick wins. It is important that you believe in. So both the people and the leadership. So if you cannot generate results in the first 3 months, nobody is going to continue and invest in it. This is just a reality. So that's why we focus our training program on generating already in the first 3 months, you know, show them suddenly you have hundreds, thousands of views on their content, show them they already generated probably 5 leads per week and they already won a client or 2. Because only if you do that, then you really continue what you do. That's why growth hacking and using all these great growth hacking techniques at the beginning and then moving into more really thinking through processes a bit later is like what we figured out over that about 9 to 12 months that we built this program now works best. And we tried it out in both ways, but this motivates people the most. So, you know, like if you do something and you see, fuck, it works. Yeah, and then you're motivated to continue. So quick wins are very, very important. And everybody who tells you there is not an option to create quick wins, it's not true. In the first 3 months, you should have your quick wins.
So give some more feedback on that. With my son, Luke, he won his first client. I think it was in the first week. He started to apply some of the principles, because I know part of how you start is about sorting out the profiles, some of the settings on LinkedIn, getting all of that aligned. There's quite a bit of work to do, and he did all of that started to do, I think it was his first post, got quite a lot of responses and won his first client within about a week. So it doesn't even have to be 3 months. That was within a week.
No, I was really proud of him, and it's all about really doing it. So like, whenever you see people in a training program, the ones who really do what you tell them, who really integrate, they have super fast success. I have clients who won their 3 biggest clients in the first 3 months. And we talk about multi-billion-dollar corporation. We talk about several $100 deals. And I just had an interview last week with one of our most successful clients, Laurent Boudin. He's a tech scout for digitalization and AI. And he told me it was never the outreach, or it was never the direct sales that brought him business. It was this thought leadership. Then any company that was interested would find him about the topic and then already have all this credibility, because he has a lot of followers, he has a lot of views, and they see instantly you have the credibility. And that helps not just in the lead gen, but actually close the deal, because he comes in as a trusted advisor. And this really makes a difference. Do you come in as a sales guy or as a trusted advisor?
Which was something that we mentioned earlier. Yeah,
really,
well, it's
really
brilliant. It's been really good to have you on the podcast. We've been going nearly an hour now.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So I tell you now how to outreach to us.
Yes. How do we get hold of you?
Okay, it's quite easy. Our website is imaginegrowth.institute. There you find more information, and you can just book a first meeting with us. And the first meeting with us, I like to provide value. So what we do is we do a free review of your lead generation process. And then we look each other in the eyes and we honestly say, okay, we can create value or not. We also do this. We have too many leads. So we also just take the companies on board where we really feel we can make exponential success and they want to do it. And then you can start very fast. So after that conversation, the next day you can be onboarded and start. And other than that, you'll obviously find me on LinkedIn, Alexander Gesell, Gesell. And there you'll find a lot of content. Those are the 2 best areas to reach out to me.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Alex, for coming on today. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast, and I'm sure that the people listening to this will also enjoy it. So thank you very much to all of those listening. If you've listened through to the end or a full hour, well done. But hopefully we were delivering some value to you. This is the Boss It podcast. Please get in contact if you've got ideas or thoughts, or if you've got a story that you would like to tell me and you think it's worth doing a podcast about. Thank you very much for your time. Bye-bye.